Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. Of course, the deal with the IMF, the government is doing its very best to get the best deal for Pakistan, but does it have a very real cost for the government, a political cost? We'll be talking about that. We'll also be talking about the difficulties as the budget is expected very soon and the difficulties that are there for the man on the street, for everyday, even everyday groceries, everyday utilities. How is it, what's happening for the man on the street and the cost for the government. We'll also be talking about the opposition in the National Assembly as it mounts. Is it becoming a collaborative effort with the PPP and the PMLN, becoming a joint opposition after the Ramazan? We'll be talking about that. We'll also be talking about the economy as a whole and all of the efforts of the government, whether a direction is being set for Pakistan now. All of that today. I have with me Zia Bande Saab, who's a president of the Prime Institute. Thank you for joining us today. Naseem Siddiqui Saab, who's a senior journalist. Thank you for joining us. And Shakil Rame, who's an executive director with Zalme Foundation. Thank you for being with us. Ji, Zia Saab, like I said, of course, this is an attempt. The government is trying its best to set the right kind of direction for the economy of Pakistan. But at the same time, there's a lot being said about this as, the cost of it for the government. Because at this time, there is the opposition, which is saying a lot of things. There are the difficulties with the price hike, the devaluation. All of these are very real problems that one can't close one's eyes to. But there are no options for the government. How do you see it?
First of all, what we need to look into it, that what the government is into difficulty. This is obviously a new government which has come into it.
Right.
So we cannot put all the blame on the same government. So it has taken certain things from the previous government also. So the important point is what space the government has to work its own directions. And with what vision have they come into the power. Actually, when the government, normally new government, they come into the power, so they have a very clear stance. What is that stance? Either they are going for expansionary or they are going to reduce so that they can give space. Now, as far as this government is concerned, we are not looking that this government is going from the reduction side. It want to go for the expansion side.
Right.
For expansion, I mean to say they want to do something development side also. At the same time, they want to give relief on the taxes also. So how can the two, I mean to say, opposite things can work together? But this government is in a catch. Then the fiscal space which the government usually have to work out its agenda is not there. Why you are going to the IMF? Because you are unable to generate much of the foreign exchange.
Do you think that there was ever any real choice with regard to going to the IMF for Pakistan? Not because of the government, but because of whatever it's inherited, like you've said.
Obviously, I mean to say that we cannot put the blame on the government, whatever they are doing. The important thing is this, what is their creativity? So do you think that how the dollars are going to come into this country? One way is the easy way that you take money from IMF or from your friendly countries. And second thing, you earn money. Now, the more important thing which is important for us to understand, does this government has a road map for the country to earn more dollars? I mean to say, we also know that the government role is not to earn dollars. Dollars will be earned by the private sector. Are we facilitating the private sector to earn more dollars?
Right.
We are on the edge of this FATF. Now, it means that your window is reducing.
Right.
Your exports are declined or even stagnant.
Right.
They're not improving that much.
Right.
You have reduced the imports. Those imports which can support your exports also. Okay? And if you, I mean to say, compare Pakistan in the region also, so we are not going far ahead. So I mean to say, it is unimportant whether you take money from anyone. The more important thing which we need to ask, do we have the capacity to earn dollars? We have to return this money also. Mind that thing also. Irrespective whatever the policies you have to implement, you have to return the money also.
Right.
So if we don't earn money in next 1 to 2 years,
so
how we are going to service it?
Right.
That is the main
Let me go on to Naseem Saab. I'll come back to you. Naseem Saab, are we really going to go, like Zia Saab is saying, we have to set the right kind of direction. We have to have the right kind of policies. We have to know where we are going as far as our economy is concerned, to not come back into the same spiral which we have been coming into for I mean, how many years? We don't know. So, do you think that we will be able to do that? Do you think we are working towards that? Let's even forget about the now, for example, if we look at the future. Because, there was a lot being said about creation of jobs and all of that. But even if we leave that aside, are we going towards an economy which we can then earn enough to pay back to the IMF, which is what Ziasab is saying.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and thank you very much for your invitation. As my colleague Ziasab said, that this government has came into power first time. The previous governments, they have been taking lot of loans in their tenures, and they have been misusing that loan, and there was lot of corruption and money laundering as well. That's why we are on the brink of the FATF as well to go into the blacklist. But this government, they have to go to IMF, because if you don't go to IMF, then World Bank or Asian Development Bank, they will not give you any loans.
Right.
So first of all,
Naseem Saab, I'm going to have to interrupt you. We're also being joined by Dr. Waqar Ahmed, who's a Deputy Executive Director with the SDPI. Let me go to him. I'll come back to you. Ji, Waqar Saab, can you hear us?
Yes.
Ji, Waqar Saab, we're talking about the direction of the economy at this point in time, and whether there really was a choice as far as IMF, going to the IMF or not going to the IMF was concerned, and whether at this time, with the kind of economy, with the kind of direction of the economy we want to see, are we going towards an economy which can sustain itself, which can then, we can come to a point where we can give back whatever we've promised to the IMF?
Yes, so I think during the initial days when there was an expectation or perceived understanding on part of the government that they could probably manage without IMF. That phase probably took too long, and the understanding by the time it came, it was a bit too late. But ultimately, yes, the government did realize that they will have to come up with a macroeconomic stabilization plan, discuss it with the IMF, secure their financing. So things seem to be on the right track now, and one just hopes that they will be able to secure a decent IMF deal, because whatever economic reform the government is actually promising, it will only start once there is some comfort level in the markets that, yes, government has signed up to fiscal discipline as well as overall stabilization program with the IMF. And of course, with the signing of this deal, you will have other sources of funding which are already lined up, but they are waiting for the letter of comfort from the IMF, which in fact includes the other IFIs like the World Bank, the Asian Development Bank, who have lined up funding but are awaiting the nod from IMF.
Dr. Waqar, do you think, what do you make of the criticism of, that regarding the IMF, that it's IMF negotiating with the IMF? Do you think there's any credibility to that? Do you think there's any, even if there any weight should be attached to that kind of criticism?
I think when governments negotiate with IMF, it's not one person or two persons you're just talking about. It's essentially the whole paraphernalia, the whole apparatus of the government. So it's not just probably the governor, state bank, or the finance minister. There's a fleet of federal secretaries under them. There's a team of FBR colleagues, a team of state bank colleagues, and negotiation per se is not just about one aspect. The negotiation is about the exchange rate, the interest rate, the management of public sector enterprises, the energy sector. So these are such a host of different things, that they require a team to negotiate, and it really doesn't depend upon one person who may have association with IMF. So I would say that there's not much weight in this argument.
You have also been very close to this yourself. Has the deal been finalized with the IMF now? It will be announced very soon. What kind of a deal is it? Is it what we were all expecting, or is it more favorable to us? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
So I think things are very close now. And initially, yes, there were divergent views. For example, in case of revenue collection, we have tried to narrow down expectations from both sides, in fact. Of course, IMF also took view of the capacity at FBR, which at the moment may not be as much to collect as they were envisaging early on. I think that initially, even on the way we were trying to transform the public sector enterprise, there were divergent views. That expectation in that arena has also sort of narrowed down. Then, of course, Pakistan has shown a lot of flexibility when it comes to currency management. You have seen
perhaps too high. Do you think our expectations were too high and not in line with the reality on the ground?
You see, one can say that on both sides because expectations only are aligned once you start talking to each other. So initially, the rounds were really short-lived. This time around, of course, the mission came in for slightly longer period. They, of course, had data, much better data to base their decisions on. And in fact, the mission had to, according to the plan dates, they had to leave 2 days prior. They ended up extending their stay in Pakistan because they can see it coming to an end now.
Right. Let's hope that it's as favorable as possible for the man on the street, for the common man, which is what really, the political parties, as far as the PTI, of course, also wants. And let's hope that it'll deliver. Thank you so much for being with us. Moving on, Naseem Saab, I'll come back to you. I'm going to go to Shakil Saab. Shakil Saab, even Dr. Saab was just telling us, it's very close. The deal is very close to now coming out, and we will be hearing about it and whatever the finer points of it are. Do you think that earlier on the expectations of the government were perhaps too high and the situation was much worse than we had envisaged, probably?
I see this thing somehow a little bit differently. So government of Pakistan this time tried to adopt another model.
Right.
So they were not planning to go to IMF. What they did initially, they were trying to fill this gap by borrowing from friends.
Right.
Like the other prime minister went to Saudi Arabia, to China and UAE. They were expecting more money, but unfortunately, our gap was so big, so no country could fill it. One thing, and second thing, ultimately government had to go to IMF.
Right.
And when the government went to the IMF, there was a gap still of the $15 billion, which they are negotiating 6.5 with the IMF, and the rest would be taken.
You think that the delay was costly to us?
No, not costly. I think they were trying to have some ground footing where they can negotiate better. They had some ground footing. That's why they are negotiating. Otherwise, the first package they were.
So it bought us, some
as
leverage.
There was a speculation in the market, dollar would be 180. So that did not touch. Right now, they are just speculating about the 165. That's mean
Right.
Even if we go to the speculation, then again we have some margins, and that is due to the preparedness of the government by contacting to the other partners. Other thing, when we talk about IMF package, I don't believe any IMF package can give you impetus to your economy. It's just like a drip for the
Right.
short being.
Right.
And other thing is that there are two types of the economy indicators. One, everybody talk about the stability of economy. So, and stability depends on the 5 indicators we talk about: debt to GDP ratio, inflation, interest rate, fiscal deficit, current deficit, these things. But the real impetus to economy comes from the other indicators. That is your industry sector, your agriculture sector, your services sector, and you mean the real sectors of the production and the services that
Right.
is come from there. The prominent example on this front, we can see how in Turkey from 2002 to 2007, how Turkey implemented IMF package, but what they did differently from other countries, which Pakistan has to learn from there. They give equal importance to the productive sectors.
Right.
And these productive industry, agriculture and the services sectors, from there they got the income and they build their economy. What
Right.
we are doing for the last 30 or 40 years, every time we just focus on 4 or 5 indicators of the stability. Economy should be stable, stable, stable. But we are not giving focus to our real productive sector, which really help to generate the resources and overcome these crises for the in the long term. And Asad Umar was trying to do that. What he was trying to do that, he was just giving the focus to other productive sectors. For one example, he knew that, so in the international export market, if you go to enter the international market, maybe you take many more years. That's why he was negotiating with Chinese government to include Pakistan in the supply chain of certain sectors. Supply chain means when if somebody is making a computer, so some parts of computer should be made in Pakistan. Automatically you have the export market because that brand is already established. These were the indicators we need to work. But for those indicators you need time and patience, which this government did not show that. And the people are not showing
Do
that.
you think that it was a bad decision to change?
Yes, it is
Asad
bad
Umar?
decision because I don't know why it is their own politics. They can make any decisions. But
Right.
if I look at those indicators, it seems to me that it was not a good decision. So,
So you think that by the indicators, whatever policies, initiatives that Asad Omar was, the direction that Asad Omar was going in was actually good for
I
the
believe there are certain
economy.
actions were really good, like we talk about the inclusion in the supply chain,
Right.
and to cater the issues of economy for the long term. There is no short-term solution. If anybody believes that there is any short-term solution, that's
Whoever comes in,
so
right.
that short-term solution will backfire after 2 or 3 years. That's happening in this economy. Every government is taking money from IMF. They're saying that we control the dollar rate, we control the inflation, we control the fiscal deficit. Then why it's coming back after every 5 years? The reason is that you are not curing the disease. You are just trying to give the Panadol for the time being. There is no pain, and then you feel like that, relax. No, you have to cure the disease.
And
So-
that will take time.
It will take time. Definitely will take time. Like I'll give the example from the China.
And we
China
have no
took-
choice but to be patient and to show that kind of patience
For example,
that
China.
development.
China took 40 years to reach to the level of the developing country. Still they are saying they are not developed country. And we are talking about 1 year, 2 years to be a developed country.
Do you think that the government, let me come back to you, Naseem sir, do you think the government was afraid of the political cost, the kind of patience that is required, for that kind of result? Do you think the government was afraid that they would have a very real political cost if they continued on that path? Of course, they don't have an option even now. And like, even Shakeel Saab is saying, whoever comes in doesn't have a magic wand and is dealing with the same issues on the ground.
The problem with this government is that they have come first time in the power.
Right.
They were in opposition and they were pointing over the problems of Pakistan continuously, and Asad Omar was giving some solutions as well.
Right.
But they didn't done their homework properly. It took a long way to deal with IMF. I think they have taken too much time. If they would have gone in October or November and they have dealt with IMF properly and have gone through, so now they would not be having that much problems. So the delaying the deals with IMF has created problem with present government. That's why there is no doubt in the abilities of Asad Omar. But that delay made Prime Minister to change the finance minister. Because IMF was thinking as well that no doubt Asad Omar is not corrupt, he is the honorable person,
Right.
but he is not that experienced. That's why I think they have asked for a person who is well experienced to deal with IMF and deal with the present economic situation of Pakistan. And that's why Hafiz Sheikh has been brought in, because he is a good economist and he has done a lot in the previous governments as well. So this is the main reason. But at the moment, if they have gone to the IMF, that is not the solution. As my colleague said, that Panadol will not work. We'll have to give the antibiotics.
But the
later on as
Panadol
well.
is necessary in any case.
Necessary at the moment, but they have to increase their tax net. If they don't increase their tax net, IMF is more concerned that we are ready to give you the loan, but tell us how you will return it. If you go to the bank and apply for the lease of a car, they ask what is your salary and how much you spend at home and how much rent you pay. How will be you giving us the installments for that leasing?
Right.
So that's IMF is more concerned that how will be you paying. Now government, the deal is need to be done. Yeah. So government has given the surety to IMF that we will be increasing the tax net, and government need to arrange for more industries in
What
Pakistan.
about utilities also? I mean, even there, isn't it true that there's also a lot of rumors about the fact that the electricity will increase, the power tariff, all of that, for every day utilities will go up, have already gone up.
Definitely.
So
in
there
this-
will be that kind of.
In this budget, you will see that everything will be increasing. This government will have to go through this phase. Once the public and the government went through this phase, then in the later stage, there would be some relaxations for the government if they cut to the corruption and spendings, and they will save some money, and then they will create some jobs, create some industries. So the revenue will come, the imports will be lessened, and the exports would be much
That
on the
sounds
higher
like a
side.
very long-term plan, Naseem sir.
But if you are going on the right path, definitely you will reach the destination one day. So we have to correct our path.
But what about the political cost for the government?
Definitely, this government has to give a political cost. But if the things keeps going on and people will say that the government is going in the right direction.
So you're saying it's not the people that have to be patient, but it's also the government that has to be patient with the kind of reaction that they can expect from the opposition, from the people.
Exactly. That's why I've told in many other talk shows that government should be relaxed and they should bear whatever they are getting the criticism, and they should concentrate on the work they have promised with the people of Pakistan, those who voted for this government. So they should go in the right direction with patience, and there's a tough opposition at the moment, because in the previous governments you have seen that if there is PMLN, there was only one opposition, People's Party. If it's People's Party government, there was only PMLN in the opposition. Now the two tough parties who have been in the government twice or thrice, they are in the opposition. So they are giving a very tough time to the present government. So this government needs to be go further on with very much intelligence at the moment.
Right. Let me go on to Zia Sab. Zia Sab, it's not just fortitude on the part of the government that's needed at this point. Of course, they need to be very wise in the way that they implement their policies. Because do you see the PPP and the PMLN uniting as a collective opposition in the coming months, in the face of the budget also?
Look, this is a power game, and you cannot say that, you cannot deny the right to the opposition parties to be more relevant to the power game and to hit on PTI where it is weak.
Right.
What is important, you're talking about the political cost. Look, every economic decision is a political one. You don't have normally the finance minister technical. They're mostly political people because they have to handle the political side in front of their electorate.
Right.
That is what is important for us to understand.
Right.
When you're looking at this equation of these revenues, the revenues have two parts. One is revenues and another is expenditure. So we are talking about revenues, to raise revenues and to take money and all that. What about the expenditure part? Do we have some serious discussion on that end? Why the government need that money? Why they have to raise these taxes? You still has an economy which has a bigger load on indirect taxation. Unfortunately, PTI is coming from the same elite structure from where PPP and PMLN is coming. So they know there will not be any revolutionary things. They are not putting load on the elite. They are still putting load on the masses. What you're looking at, increase in your power utilities, I mean to say expenses, you are looking at your petrol.
Right.
So everything is indirect. So where is that cut? Where is that ruthlessness to work at, against that elite structure? You don't find there.
It's not there anymore.
It's not there actually. Even if PPP was here or PMLN was here,
Right.
they will be doing the same thing.
Right.
The more important part of the electoral politics, because when you're talking about political economy, so you have to understand the political side also. So they are the same elite class. How can they go against their own elite class? Are they going to, I mean to say, tax the landed aristocracy in this country? Are they going to tax the military side?
But wasn't the government actually saying a lot of these things before they came in, that they might be doing a lot of these
These are the rhetorics, now they are the political rhetorics, which you know. I mean to say, what is more important, that you have to see the teeth. The teeth is there or not.
Right.
Unfortunately, in the last 8-9 months, we didn't see those teeth which are coming. My esteemed friend is talking about real economy. Yes, that is there.
Right.
They did talk about Turkey.
Right.
Turkey took an advantage of the custom union with the European Union,
Right.
which was signed and which they took advantage when they had the space.
Right.
Likewise, what advantage did we accrue from China in FTA?
Right.
Just look at that part also. No? What is government is supposed to do? Government is supposed to open the economy for the people to come here and visit the place and do the investment. Just tell me,
What
how
about
many
CPAC?
foreigners? How many foreigners are coming here? How many? I mean to say, you're talking about Chinese. Yes, Chinese are coming. But do you know that how much Chinese are investing in other jurisdictions in the same period? That is the question you need to ask. You need to compare the Chinese. Now we are talking, we want to become the part of the supply chain. Yes, how can you become a part of the supply chain? Is your prime minister or your government is taking those companies there and directly talking to those Chinese companies? I mean to say, how Americans have invested in China, or how Chinese invested in America, or how Indians have invested in America,
Right.
or in China. You have to have all those cases over there. Your economy, you are the 6th largest country. You are the 25th largest economy. I mean to say, you are a poor country. As per capita income, you have $1,500.
Right.
Your gap is increasing in the South Asia also. Now we need to ask the question, serious question from the government. What is the game plan? This what you are doing is firefighting. It's all firefighting which is going on. What is important? How we are going to make money? How are we going to bring prosperity in this country? That should be the question you should be asking from the government.
But isn't the government working towards it, in your opinion?
No, the government is just doing. Look, just take an example of Sialkot. Sialkot is a place which have done on their own, without the government support.
Yes.
Okay, that is one of the example. You go to Gujranwala. I've been to Gujranwala over there, and Gujranwala has a big cottage industry which don't want to come into the formal economy. Why? They are afraid of FBR. They are afraid even of banking side also. So that's a cash economy. That's why they cannot scale. Now, what is important for the government is to reduce that fear in the business segment,
Right.
ease of doing business, where you are standing right now.
But weren't we seeing some initiatives from the government which were working towards itself?
I think so. The most important transformative thing which they have taken is empowering local government.
Right.
I believe that is the way forward for this country. This is a country of over 200 million inhabitants. It cannot be run with a top-down approach.
But we did that and then we went back. So we've been, going
No, the point
back
is
and
this,
forth.
that this is important. You have that top-down approach for the last 70 years.
Right.
What you have seen more bickering. You don't have a national cohesion in the country. You have all those political instability. That's a military-civilian disbalance. Okay, take it to the people. Take it down below to the people. Let them work. If Sialkot municipality is empowered, what they have done without that empowerment, with that empowerment,
What can
just
they
see
achieve?
they can do.
Right, right.
So that is a life example in Pakistan we
But
have.
bringing, there was a lot being said about bringing, widening the tax net. Do you think that we are perhaps moving towards it, Ji Naseem sir? We'll know more when the budget comes in, but do you think the initiatives of the government now at this point, perhaps, they're working towards these very goals?
This is one of the fears, that you need to increase the tax net. As far as my colleague was saying, that you have to increase the businesses as well. You need to bring the confidence in the local businessman as well. If you want to
But
bring...
Naseem sir, the problem, to me as a layman, I don't have economic background. It seems like all of these goals are very long term. They will take a lot of time infusing confidence in the business community, widening the tax net, trying to, as far as our institutions, building our institutions, all of these are very long-term goals, which is what the government said from the point go.
Government can go on the both sides. They can go on the long-term facilities as well, and they have
What
to
is
go
the short-term? that
short-term, like they should build the confidence of the businessman.
How
If
can they build the confidence in the
They can facilitate them. They are, as my colleague said, that they are afraid of FBR. They are afraid of banking systems. If they are bringing a new governor for the state bank,
But the
new
new
chairman for the
chairman
FBR
is
as well,
also coming
why?
in.
They want to make some quick changes into that one. So if they want to bring some investment from outside, they are asking the people to come and invest in Pakistan. But people are afraid of the security matters. If they come, then who will give the security? So they need to build the confidence quickly,
Right.
so the money could come to Pakistan, and then
They need to change the security situation in a snap.
no, not in a snap. At least they can assure the people that they are coming. The security situation in Pakistan is much better as
Yes,
compared
there's no
to
doubt about
previous years. So
Right.
they need to build the confidence of the local businessman, and as far as for the international investor. And they need to create more jobs. If they want to increase the tax net, they need more people to earn the money. So if there would be more people earning money, there would be easier for them to give the tax, and there would not be burden on the masses. Like at the moment, you are putting too much pressure on the masses, taxes on the utility bills, on the grocery and other things. So they have to give some ease to the people of Pakistan who have given the vote to PTI to bring some changes in Pakistan. So they need to bring some drastic changes. So, and they should be on the right track, that people can trust that the government is on the right track, and in the long run, Pakistan will be flourishing. So they
Right.
need to build the confidence in the people.
Well, look at the short-term measure which you were talking about. Let's see how Pakistan government is going to perform on that FATF thing. That gives a signal to the international community also.
Right.
And it's very near. It is in September, I believe, they are going
Yes.
to
Yeah.
make a decision. So that's very near to us. That is going to basically put the direction also. The international money is coming or not.
Right. Let's hope that it does. But moving on, Shakil sir, let's move on to the political side of things. It takes time, of course, all of these measures. The government there is no two opinions about the fact that the government is very well intentioned. They're working very hard, the Prime Minister, to find the kind of direction that we need for our country at this time. But what is the, like I earlier talked about, political cost at a time where in the National Assembly the numbers are what they are. The opposition unites. What kind of a scenario are we looking at? Do you think that it's possible they may come out on the streets? Do you think that it will build pressure for the government in the coming months?
Look, first of all, when we are talking about the short term, in the short term sense, if we want to talk about agriculture is the one sector which can give you the impetus in the short term, because
and you know we've had a lot of, as far as agriculture is concerned, it's one of those sectors which is the neglected sector, has been the neglected sector in Pakistan. We've heard so much about successive governments coming in and saying, well, you know, it's the backbone of our economy, it can do so much, but it hasn't had the kind of initiatives it needs for it to become a source of revenue for Pakistan.
That's what I'm saying. In the short term, you have to give leverage to agriculture sector.
Right.
We need to avoid the fancy words like that. Every other Pakistani intellectual is talking about, do this modern thing, do this. Okay, do it. But the thing is that on what basis you have to build the whole structure. That is your agriculture. We have to deeply look into what are the issues. For example, the biggest issue in agriculture sector is the credit. And the government claims in the past, so we try to give them, but nobody is accessing. The fundamental thing the government have to understand, most of the farmers, they are very religious people. They don't go for the interest-based system because it's prohibited in Islam.
Right.
So they don't go for that. You have to bring out an alternative. Democracy is not something like that you have to impose what you believe. Democracy is like that, what the people want you have to give them according to their beliefs. This is the liberal values, also liberal values. But somehow our liberal economists try to, I think, move on another direction when it comes to these things. And second thing on the Shahbaz Zaidi, today he made a very good change in the FBR. He has taken away the power of the some FBR officers to seize the account of any company without notice at least 24 hours before, and that would be the condition toward with the permission of the chairman.
Right.
So that will be the very huge impact on the business if you're talking about to build the confidence of
the confidence.
Confidence of. So they are trying to accommodate that. But again, come back here. So the government have to look into the business community as a business community, not like as they're a favorite child. For example, in the previous government, so it happened. So they have picked one group or two groups. They are giving everything to that group. Rest of the business community is somewhere wandering somewhere else. So this government have to avoid that mistake. They have to make it for opportunity for every other, for every business person who either he is running a shop or he is running the big factory. So they should give them. Second thing is on a political cost. Look, Pakistan is as a stage where you have to make a decision what you want.
Right.
You want a vote or you want a country. If you make a rational decision, maybe it takes time, but after 5 years, people will come to realize, yes, these were the reasons. For example, when they think, when economy is really stabilizing. For example, if you take your kid to the doctor and doctor is just going to inject some injection, the kid is weeping, but you try to control him because you know that it is necessary for his health. So this is a necessity for the health of the economy. If you try to focus on the political cost, you will lose the agenda. Lose the focus on your agenda. And other thing, our economist or our planner should also look deeply into our governance system of economy. If the liberal economy is not working here, we have to look for some other system. So where we can work. For example, Zia Baneva was talking about on the local government.
Right.
Look, democracy is not like that. You have the election after every 5 years, then you say that we will do everything. No. Look at the Chinese governance model. If they have to develop any development plan, they started 2 to 3 years before finalization of the plan. And the input starts from the village level. It reaches to the political bureau and the standing committee of the political bureau. And then they take a decision. And the decision is implemented from the center. Then the money is given and the target is given to the local government to make it happen at the ground.
Right.
So we have to look what will work. It is not like that, oh, the other country is working like that, that is working like that, we have to work like that. No, we have to look what can work here. In our democratic system,
You're saying that we have to see whatever suits our own system,
in our system,
political system.
local governance is a key. Because in a democracy, you talk about the local governance, local bodies. You have to engage the local bodies from the village level and bring it to the provinces and to the center. Then reverse the process for the implementation. So we will need to think about deeply what will work here. Otherwise, if you talk about like no, this is the thing we have to work, let's do it and enjoy the outcome.
I'll
Right.
just add one sentence.
Ji,
that
ji, Naseem sir.
stability and continuity, that's more important as well. And whereas the local governments are concerned, in West you have seen there are local bodies, local governments, and they collect the revenue as well. So this model, if they are bringing this model in Punjab,
But
and
we've
if
had,
it works,
do you think that it was a version of this model that we've had before, or it was the same model? Isn't it one of those models that we have tried for a brief time?
yeah, that's why I'm saying that they were tried for a brief time, so they need stability and continuity. When you have stability and continuity, then you will get the results.
I want to talk on this
Ji,
local
ji.
government model also. What's the difference? The major difference is the way they are going to elect it. It's the directly elections,
Right.
which has never been done before in Pakistan. It's a proportional representation. You're giving power to the parties also. Now, this is also very important. We are talking about China. China is a one-party dictatorship, so that model cannot work here. We have a federation, we have 4 provinces, and we have a different political Milo in this country.
Right.
So I was looking into the models, and I just picked up the Indonesian model. The local Indonesia is also unitary state, but what they have done, they have basically devolved power at the province level and then on the mayor level also. And in the country, all this mayor, president, and governor of the province are directly elected, and they also have that party system. I mean to say partyless system. So what is important for us, that we want to engage people. Now, why people are not giving you the tax? Because people don't trust you.
Yeah.
They know that my money will be siphoned off. They will be buying cars, they will be going on vacations, they will be buying assets outside. And that is also the reality.
Right.
How can we just keep that just because this government has come and they are talking about that, no, we are very different, that's fine. You know, one minister cannot oversee everything. You have
That's
a
true.
big machinery below
Right,
you,
right.
which is working under you.
Right.
So what is important for you to understand is not that it's one party which is going to work out. We have to engage a broader population into the governance of the country. Not one prime minister, one minister is not going to do anything.
Which is where the local government.
Yes, you have local government, you have provincial government, you have people at every citizenry's participation, which is important. They are going to overlook that in my city, why I don't have a park over here? Why I don't have a road over here? Who's collecting my waste? You don't run. Punjab is a province of 120 million inhabitants.
Right.
Standalone basis is the 12th largest country. And just look at the last government. They have 56 companies. Do you run a country like that with 56 companies?
Right.
So that's a question which we need to ask, that you want to engage citizen, and you should be, I mean to say, you should have a confidence on the citizens of this country that they can take care of themselves. They don't need any lecturing from outside. They don't need lecturing. Our folk wisdom is enough to take this country forward. It is a resilient people. They have seen much more worse thing in the history. This is not first time which they are looking at it. And I am totally hopeful if this system prevails in the country. So
How
there will
many
be
years
a-
do you think that it'll need to be?
It's not the matter of time. Just
Right.
please, the country is not going anywhere. We have lost the country, half of the country. We have seen internal wars. We have seen war against terrorism. We have seen where the country was going. So I mean to say, as far as the problems are concerned, economic problems, hardships are concerned, these people can bear with that. The only thing
Can
is this. Yes, they are bearing. Up till now, they are not bearing for the last 70 years.
Yes, but the
How
situation
much, I mean to say rights we have seen. How much toppling of the government we have seen by the people's power.
Right.
Is nothing happening like that. So
Right.
if you believe that you want to give them a chance, please give them a chance. Give them a chance to take charge of their own thing. We have Mustafa Kamal in this country.
Right.
We have got local examples who have done. Right or wrong, whatever, we are not going into that discussion. My issue is only this.
Right.
Devolve it, you will create an intra-jurisdictional competition. Lahore will be competing with Karachi, Hyderabad will be competing with Sakhar to get more investment. We are talking about Chinese model. Chinese model is a devolved model. China has changed. In 2006, they have those 5 years plans. They have changed the name to 5 years guidelines. Now that semantic is a very important differentiation which you need to understand.
Right.
Chinese are not now micromanaging the economy. Yes, they have broad guidelines, and their cities, their provinces, they are basically running after the money. They are basically running after the investments.
Right.
That's why the Beijing is not controlling 1.3 billion people. They're the people down on the ground which are working to bring money and to bring prosperity in that nation.
Other thing which, if you allow me, any country start to develop, they have some centralized system. Once they are developed, then they started to go for the freedom of like the liberty. I'm not talking about liberty, but the more devolved system. But the devolution should be on the basis of something. It's just not like that the devolution for everything. There are certain areas which you need to keep at the center level to make a quick decision.
Right.
For example, every other day you listen about the one window. From the last 30-40 years, you
Yes,
are listening
that's
to
true.
Lebanon, there is no one window. Why? Even after the 18th Amendment, it's become practically very difficult, impossible to have a one window, because you have the Federal Board of Investment, Provincial Board of Investment, and there's no chain of command where they can, Federal Board of Investment can go and dictate them and tell them that you have to do the things. They say we will do according to our own preferences. But for the one window, there are a number of things which you have to deal at for registration of any business. You have to deal some things at the federal level, something at the provincial level, and for utility you have to go down to the municipality. So how you can create a one window?
Right.
Especially you have to create something. It's not just like if you if you talk about the Chinese model, in the beginning they were controlled from the center. As the development, as the economy was expanding, they started to give more powers to the people.
Right.
But the decision and the planning process was always from bottom to top.
Right.
Bottom
On
is
that
very
note-
important.
I'll just quickly
Right.
add that these
Gee,
corruption
unfortunately-
cases would need to be bring to some end, because people listening about corruption cases, and we have seen that nobody has been penalized yet. All of the cases are in courts, some are
Of
on
course,
the bail.
but that would take
So
time. I mean, the
yeah.
judicial process has to take its own time.
Yeah, but-
Unfortunately, on that note, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for joining us today. Zia Bande Saab, thank you for your time. Naseem Siddiqui Saab, thank you for being with us. Shakil Rame Saab, thank you for your time. As far as the economy is concerned, as far as the present situation is concerned, we need to be patient. We need to trust the government. There's no doubt that they're sincere and that they're putting all their efforts together to find a sustainable solution for the economy of the country. The best right now is to have faith and to have patience, and let's see where as a country and all that we talked about today as a people, and that we can all unite and we can all put our efforts into making sure that our economy can be a sustainable economy. We can move towards development. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.